All right, welcome to episode 5 of the Hypothetically Speaking podcast. We put the hype in every hypothetical scenario. Today, I'm joined by some new guests. Today, I'm joined by CJ Rousseau, Sam Moldenhauer, and Mr. Conner Domaleski. PFF's own Sam Moldenhauer, might I add. Fellas, how are we doing?
Doing well. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, with preseason starting in less than 1 month, we've had quite the NFL offseason. Is there any doubt at this point that Zach Wilson has the most dog in him? CJ, I want to hear your thoughts on how much dog is in Zach Wilson.
I would say somewhere.
Go ahead, CJ.
I would say he has more cougar than dog.
Okay, perfect. Sam, anything to add?
I love the memes. It's great.
The memes are beautiful. Well said.
I was shocked by the news, and then Dax Milne is starting dating his girlfriend now.
Yeah. It's wild times over in BYU. Wild times. But we'll dive into some actual football here. First off, we're going to start in the NFC South, where we're going to the recent trade news of Baker Mayfield in Carolina for just a 5th-round pick. They've now given up practically an entire draft to acquire Matt Corral, Baker Mayfield, and Sam Darnold over the past 2 seasons. Sam, we'll start with you. Who is starting for the Panthers next season?
I think it's going to be Baker. I saw that the trade was rumored to be ongoing for about 2 months. They just couldn't get the finances down. And Matt Rule and the ownership, this is really their last chance per se. They've been trying. Matt Rule came in from the college scene and thought he was smarter than the NFL, so he bet on Sam Darnold, and that has not turned out well. The Panthers owner, I can't remember his name right now, but he's the richest owner in the NFL, and they have not had a winning season. They've traded all of their draft picks. So if they need some wins, they better go with Baker Mayfield. But I still don't think they're going to win that many games.
CJ, with Sam Darnold, arguably the worst quarterback to play football over the past 3 seasons in the NFL, does he have a shot to overtake Baker Mayfield? Does Matt Corral have a chance? Are they going to bring back Cam Newton? Do you have any thoughts?
So I actually think Darnold starts week 1. Might be his only start, or he'll have a small number of starts. But Baker just has a really uphill battle with not a lot of weeks training camp, very short preseason, and he's still recovering from his injury. He's not 100% back from that shoulder injury. So who knows if he's going to really be he's really going to know the system that well come week 1, and who knows if he's going to be able to throw a football 100% by week 1. I do think he's got some more talent in him than Sam Darnold. The Baker Mayfield cycle is he gets overhyped, he plays bad. He gets a chip on his shoulder, he plays good. He gets overhyped, he plays bad. So he'll have some good games in him. He'll definitely, I think, start the bulk of the games. But Carolina just keeps such a short leash on their quarterbacks. I think there's a chance we see Matt Corral this season as well.
That would be very interesting to see. I think Sam Darnold starting week 1 would be very interesting considering they play the Browns. How funny would that be for Baker to be benched in his what could be his only revenge game ever, because who knows when the Panthers might play Cleveland again. Conner, give me Baker Mayfield's live reaction to being told he's going to be benched when he gets the chance to play the Browns.
Man, that is not the question I was expecting to get. I'm sure I'm sure Twitter would absolutely have a heyday with that, but I absolutely see where CJ's coming from here. But I kind of agree. Well, I don't know if you were just kind of playing devil's advocate or making a statement there, but yeah, it's hard for me to see Carolina benching him for that revenge game because of what it's going to mean to him. But then again, franchises aren't so worried about what it means to a player versus winning games. So I don't know. I definitely side with the fact that he may not start week 1, but I don't see anybody else out competing him on that team because as a man who had Sam Darnold as his quarterback on a fantasy team for quite a while, he's absolute garbage, and he kept me out of the playoffs in multiple leagues. And I mean, it's as simple as that. Baker is their guy for sure.
Yeah, I mean, as a guy who had to watch Sam Darnold play quarterback for their team and root for him, I can relate. I know what you mean. It's awful. Anyways,
I guess there's a reason there's not a Darnold jersey behind you.
Exactly. And there's also a reason that there's not a Zach Wilson jersey behind me yet, because it's always a risk when we draft a quarterback. I'm sure I know exactly what my answer is, or what your answer is all going to be here. Is there any chance anybody overtakes Tampa Bay to win this division this season? If you think so, please speak up. If not, we can just move on.
The Falcon in me wants to say that Desmond Ridder is going to come out of the gate swinging and win us 12 games somehow. But no, I'm looking at four games next year, 4 or 5 wins for the Falcons. So it's the Bucs division. No one's taking it from them.
Not even Jameis Winston. Nobody thinks
no.
Jameis Winston. Okay, cool. Well, we can move on.
Hey, listen, I was legitimate. I was talking to my brother last night. I think the Saints are a legitimate sleeper team. I think they're going to be good. I don't know if they're taking it from the Bucs, but I think they're going to be much better than people expect. And I'll leave.
I think they're a good second place.
I think they're a good team, but I think it ultimately comes down to quarterbacks so often in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And Jameis Winston he's not Tom Brady, even at
30 and 30
the way
or whatever.
The Saints are right now, I wouldn't be surprised if they won the division. I wouldn't be surprised if they got last in the division because of the quarterback that Jameis Winston is. He seems like a real kind of hot or not guy, but I think they're going to be sneaky good. Probably, like you guys said, like the realist in me, no, they're not going to be better than the Bucs. But this podcast is called Hypothetically Speaking. And hypothetically speaking, I think the Saints could be a dark horse.
I love it. Sam, do you have anything to add?
I mean, who doesn't get pumped up from a good Jameis Winston workout tape?
Yeah, I mean, last time we saw him play football, he was legally blind and threw for 5,000 yards. Will that change? Probably not. It's probably going to still be the same old Jameis. Probably not going to be enough to overtake Tom Brady and the Bucs. But we can move on over across the country to the NFC West. The hot topic around that division right now, I mean, I guess it's one of the most competitive ones in the NFL, but specifically with the 49ers quarterback situation, Jimmy Garoppolo versus Trey Lance. There's been probably some sort of training camp report every single week about whether Trey Lance is looking good, Trey Lance isn't doing enough, Jimmy G's probably going to get traded, Jimmy G's not going to get traded. CJ, we'll start with you on this one. Who starts week 1?
If you had asked me this question even a month ago, my answer probably would have been different, because all last offseason, all last season, all this offseason, I've been rooting for Trey Lance. But why the heck is Jimmy still on the roster if Trey Lance is ready to go? There's been teams that need quarterbacks. There's definitely been suitors out there that they could deal Jimmy to if they needed to. And they need the money. They need the cap space to pay Debo. So that's even more incentive to get him off the roster. Why is he still there if Trey's ready to go? I believe in Trey Lance. He was my number 2 quarterback in his draft class. I believe in him. Hopefully he'll be good one day. I just can't see why Jimmy is still there if he's ready.
Yeah. Sam, do you think that Trey Lance has a chance to overtake Jimmy G this season?
During the season?
At any point during the season?
Probably during the season, because Jimmy G plays himself onto the bench pretty frequently. But at this point, to start the season, I think it's going to be Garoppolo. I did see a report earlier today that said the Seahawks were investigating amid some rumors, but I don't know why the Seahawks would want him. I think they should just go full on to that rebuild. But the Niners still owe Jimmy G $27 million this year. And I mean, to be honest, it could just be a situation where Trey Lance is not as good as they thought he was going to be. I mean, everybody's asking that question of, I mean, if he's good enough to be drafted 3rd overall and traded 2 or 3 first-round picks for him, why is he not starting yet?
Yeah. I mean, he was always going to be a long-term project, I believe, coming out of North Dakota State. And Connor, Are you a Trey Lance supporter? Are you a Trey Lance believer? Do you think he has a chance to start week 1, or are we all just L's in the chat? This dude has no chance of starting week 1.
I want to say first, Sam, I'm kind of having a hard time hearing you. Might because I'm on my phone. I don't know what it sounds like for you guys connected via the computer, but yeah, no, I think Trey Lance, if he doesn't start week 1, I think he'll be the starter by the end of the year. What I've read from statements coming out from players like George Kittle, from Kyle Shanahan, seems to be like that's the direction that they're trending. And for me, you know what you're getting with Jimmy G, right? You know he's going to be subpar. I think if they want to take a leap, I think Trey Lance is the guy for the future. I think he will start the season. And I know with CJ made his point, it was really good, and it made me rethink what I was going to say. But I felt like I had to.
Okay, well, Connor's cutting in and out a bit, but hopefully we'll be able to get him back soon. But we heard him say Jimmy G is subpar. I'm sure the other points were excellent, Connor. I'm so sorry that your connection's coming in and out. But Sam brings up a good point about the Jimmy G rumors to Seattle. Okay, we lost Connor entirely. That's fine. CJ, I'll ask you first. If Jimmy G goes to Seattle, like, what does that look like for them? I know this is probably something you weren't exactly prepped for, but they have Geno Smith. They have Drew Lock. What does it look like with adding Jimmy G in that mix?
I think it looks like how it would look like if you and me were their quarterback competition. They added Jimmy G. I mean, who the heck are Drew Lock and Geno Smith? Jimmy G steps in. He doesn't excel. He's not gonna win you games, but he does his best to put you in a decent position. Doesn't always work out, but the 49ers win with him on the field. Now, Kyle Shanahan's great. They got great skill position players, but how many games are the Seahawks going to win this year with Drew Lock at the helm? It's going to be more with Jimmy G. It's not going to put him in contention for the division, especially in that division, but it's going to win him more games.
Yeah. And Sam, I'll just ask you this real quick before we move on. From a fantasy perspective, adding Jimmy G into Seattle, how much does that help a guy like DK Metcalf? Just off the dome. Sorry, I know I didn't prep you for this one either.
You said adding Jimmy G to the roster?
Yeah, having Jimmy G start at quarterback, I guess with DK, Tyler Lockett, what does it look like for their receivers?
I mean, I would still say it's pretty bad. Mainly because I don't think the quarterback situation is the problem. I mean, we even saw Russell Wilson there, and the inconsistencies that Russell Wilson had within that offense. I mean, it varied from week to week, and there were all these complaints about let Russ cook. They want to run the ball like 30, 40 times a game. They ran the fewest amount of plays per game last year. They're pretty consistent in that bottom 5. So I don't see it really being fantasy relevant in any circumstance outside of maybe if they had Russell Wilson there.
No one hands the ball off better than Jimmy G.
That's very true. Maybe it's a good thing for Kenneth Walker. Maybe.
Can you guys hear me again?
Connor, we are so excited to have you back.
Oh, can you hear me?
We can.
This is excellent. So I dialed in, so just basically talking on the cell phone rather than in a Zoom meeting. So I should be good for the long haul.
Dude,
I'm excited to be back.
We are so excited.
Everybody has your phone number.
That's very true.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Good thing this podcast
We can blur it
has
out.
like 8 viewers right now.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. Every single middle schooler at Lake Oconee Academy is going to get this link. So they're going to be able to figure out your phone number.
Absolutely terrible.
Well, we'll move back over, stay in the NFC, but we're going to go back over across the coast to the NFC East, where Daniel Jones is currently the quarterback for the Giants. I would argue that he should have lost his starting job a while ago. If I was a fan of the Giants, I would be pissed if he was my quarterback. Connor, we're so excited to have you back. I'm going to ask you this first. What does Daniel Jones have to do to survive another season as the quarterback of the New York Giants?
Listen, when I was taking notes and kind of taking a look at some of the topics before this started, this was one of them that I didn't really have to even do much research on for me. I think he's a bad player. I think he's on a bad team, and I think that pretty much seals his fate. I really, other than just pulling out outstanding performances, which I don't think he's capable of, I think pretty much his fate is sealed, that they're going to be looking for a new quarterback soon. And again, I don't think it's all his fault. I think he's a bad player. He's on a bad team, and it's just a lose-lose situation. So pretty simple for me.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a believer in Daniel Jones. Sam, I'll ask you this with, I believe it's Brian Daboll's now their head coach, the guy who unlocked Josh Allen. Maybe it was him, maybe it was other people, but anyways, what can he bring over to the Giants? Does Daniel Jones have a chance to really, I guess, pop off because of what Brian Daboll can bring?
The short answer is no. The longer answer is no. I mean, I don't see why they would want to continue this. It's been going on for 4 years now, and his best moment was his first game ever played, and it was downhill. It's been downhill since. I will say they have about $50 million in cap space next year, going in next offseason. So, I mean, if they want to really make this team better, ride it out with Daniel Jones, because he is the Adam Gase of quarterbacks, and he will get you a top pick, and you take a quarterback with that top pick and you spend money elsewhere.
CJ, do you think that there's a chance that Daniel Jones is the quarterback of the Giants next season, or are they basically destined to pick in the top 3 and have their pick at potentially an all-pro quarterback with how good next year's class is supposed to be?
I'm largely in agreement, but I do have a small nugget of hope, and I will play a little bit of devil's advocate. I don't think he's a great player. I don't think he's anywhere close to being a top 20 quarterback even, but he's good enough to be a quarterback in the NFL, whoever it's for. Because how many times over the last 2 or 3 years has he had a full cast of healthy skill position players around him? Saquon, Evan Ingram, Kenny Galladay, Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate, Kadarius Toney last year, all have had injury issues. And I don't think over the last 3 years he's had, you can count him on one hand how many games he's had everybody on the field. If he has everybody on the field, does it all of a sudden make him a good quarterback? No. But does it make him an NFL starting quarterback? Probably. Not by much, but I think he earns a job.
So is it just that New York teams tend to ruin their quarterback prospects that may not deserve to look as bad as they do, but then the organizations just supply them with below average talent, below average offensive line receivers, everybody get hurt, and they're just screwed because it's also New York media? Is that kind of what happens?
The market is tough. I mean, talk about short leashes. If you're in New York, I mean, the spotlight is always on you. Look at how many coaches and offensive coordinators he's gone through in his career. I mean, no consistency in his coaching staff, no consistency in his teammates. Veteran quarterbacks that have been in the league for a while may be able to weather those storms, but him dealing with this since his rookie year, it's tough.
Yeah, I also think he's basically done after this season. The NFC East is not the division it has been over the past few seasons, where it's just kind of like, I mean, I believe there was one time somebody made the playoffs winning the division off like 6-10 or 7-9, like just a very like bad division. But I don't think the Eagles are going to be that bad this year. I don't think the Cowboys. And could we see Carson Wentz play football good? It's possible. And if he does, better watch out for the Washington Commanders. But
it is more possible than seeing Daniel Jones play football good.
I would disagree. Or I would agree. However, the football field in Washington's just destined to injure Carson Wentz, right?
Carson Wentz sprained both his ankles on one play in Indianapolis. He's going to break both of his ankles and sprain about 4 more muscles in one play in Washington.
It just seems like destiny that the man gets injured on the field with his injury history and the field's injury history. But we'll move over to the last division in the NFC. The Packers have practically ran the division for forever, for the most part, with them losing Devontae Adams this season and not bringing in like a true new wide receiver one for Aaron Rodgers. Sam, we'll start with you. Are the Packers still the best team in this division? How does it look for Aaron Rodgers losing out on Devontae Adams and then basically saying, figure it out with Alan Lazard?
Yes, they are still the best team in this division. Typically, when I look at football teams, I go from the inside out, right? So they have the best offensive line in that division. The Lions are close, but I would give the edge to the Packers. And this is probably the best defense that Aaron Rodgers has ever had to back him up. So while I don't think the receiving core is ideal, Aaron Rodgers is still a Hall of Fame quarterback. He can put the ball wherever he wants to. So until I see it, I'm just going to keep putting the Packers at first place in that division.
Connor, what do you think? Sam mentioned the Lions as arguably the second best team in the division. And I'd say that's just a win for Detroit sports. The fact that they're recognized as the second best team in the division.
I think he meant the O-line.
Still, both Detroit Lions are really coming up, especially with it's good timing because the Bears are, just full tank mode, giving no support to Justin Fields, and the Vikings, who knows?
They employ Kirk Cousins as their starting quarterback. They're not very serious about winning football games. Connor, do you think any of these teams can overtake the Packers?
Probably not. I think I'm going to be kind of in consensus with everybody here in that, yeah, I think the Packers are still the best team in their division, but I no longer think they're going to be quite as competitive in the conference there. It's not because the Packers are that good. It's because their division is that bad, though. I'll add that. If they found themselves in another division, then I don't think they would be nearly as competitive. And I also want to throw in there, Sam, I'm kind of on the same train with Detroit, man. I think they're a pretty good football team. They lost, I was looking like 7 or 8 games by 10 points or less last year. And they acquired good players consistently. I think they're going to be a legitimately average team, which is pretty good for Detroit.
Yeah. Let it just be known. I was born there. I'm from there. I have family there. So I'm not just entirely disrespecting the city. I feel like I have a little bit of reasoning to say that. But CJ, I'll ask you, it seems like the Packers are pretty much the lock. If you have a different opinion, please share. But do you have the Lions as the second best team in the division as well?
Mixed. It's them or the Vikings. Obviously, the Bears aren't there. I think the Lions are on the up and up. I think they got a lot of young players that still need to figure it out, and they're missing a quarterback. We joke about how bad Kirk Cousins is, and he doesn't win football games, but better than Jared Goff. I'd rather have Kirk than Jared. And the NFL is a league about quarterbacks, and I'm never going to count a team out when they've got the upper hand in that position.
Okay, then we'll just go around. I'm just actually curious now because I feel like I've had this debate with a few of my Logan friends named Logan that have differing opinions on Jared Goff. Sam, I'll ask you, is Jared Goff a bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL?
The bottom 5, no. Below average, yes.
CJ?
Agreed.
Connor?
Bottom 5, no. Bottom 10, probably.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Well, cool. So that is all of the Jared Goff hate that I will allow in this group chat. But we'll switch conferences. The AFC East, of course, we want to start off with that. Connor, I'm not going to give you a chance to talk about your Buffalo Bills because I'm just going to go ahead and lock them in.
Let's go, Buffalo. I love the Bills, baby. Super Bowl champs 2023. Let's go.
2023. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and lock them in as winning the division. Just going to go ahead and do it. I'm fairly certain they're also going to win the AFC. But anyways, Connor, I guess we can start with you since you're such a huge Bills fan. Who is going to finish second?
Very easy question. Miami. They are, acquiring everybody that they have this offseason. I don't think, I might be in the minority here, I don't think Tua is a bad quarterback. I really don't. I think in time he's going to show the player that he kind of was in college. But I will say, I think they're going to be legitimately good after they picked up Chase Edmonds, Tyreek. They've got Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Cedric Wilson. Tua's not bad. I think Miami is going to be the second best team, and I don't think it's going to be that much of a drop off from the Bills. Again, I don't think they'll be as good, but I think that they will surprise people this year. And for me, it's very, very, very easy to say it's going to be Bills 1, Miami 2, Patriots 3, and no, I'm so sorry, but the Jets are finishing dead last in that division again.
I don't think that's going to be the consensus, Connor. I think this is the first time in years that I can say that I don't think the consensus is that the Jets finish last in the division. And if it is, I'm just going to look like a fool because I'm a true believer. CJ, are you in agreement that Miami is kind of a lock for number 2 in the division?
In the division,
Yes.
I would say Miami goes second as well.
Okay. Well, then who is 3?
I would say the Jets. I mean, look at the offseason the Patriots had.
Exactly.
What the
Exactly.
heck did they add? I mean, yeah, the Jets added a ton of talent. They may have had the best offseason.
Bailey Zapp or Zappy, I don't even know how you pronounce his name.
Exactly. I believe, I don't remember the exact number, but they added so many running backs and I want to say multiple quarterbacks this offseason. Didn't really help out Mac Jones a ton.
I think the Patriots get worse. I do think. I just don't think the Jets. I'm sorry, no, I just don't rate the Jets, man. The biggest news to come out of there has just been that Zach Wilson likes moms. I don't know. I'm not sure they're going to be that team.
Well, anyways, Sam, I'm just going to have you explain to Connor how much dog Zach Wilson has in him, and then also tell me kind of how you see this division shaking out.
This is kind of crazy because I actually think the Jets could finish second place, and that's who I have. At this point, we haven't seen much from Zach Wilson, but I would still probably lean Wilson over Tua. That's probably a hot take, but I don't know. I just don't believe Tua is going to be that kind of quarterback to get a team to consistent playoff appearances. And obviously the Bills aren't going anywhere, so they're not going to be finishing first in the division. But yeah, I mean, the Jets had a great offseason. Laken Tomlinson, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner. I mean, they just added so many offensive weapons around Zach Wilson, not to mention, even ancillary pieces like CJ Uzomah and Tyler Conklin as good tight ends. I mean, you really don't have a lot of holes on this roster. Granted, some of the spots might be average players filling that spot, but if your worst player is average, you have a pretty good team. So I don't think it's that crazy that the Jets get second place.
Yeah, and obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I also have the Jets finishing second in the division. I'm not super high on Tua as a quarterback. I think that the rest of the team is also very good, but I'm not as high on Tua as well. And then also, I do also love the moves that the Jets made this offseason. It's the first time that I can say that the organization that I'm a fan of did the right thing to be able to support their quarterback and support their quarterback's growth. I feel like every time that they've drafted a quarterback, they've screwed them. Like when even back Mark Sanchez, I mean, they just kind of threw him out there. It should have been like a more veteran quarterback starting with that team. And he did pretty well, but I feel like they really stunted his growth with certain things that they did back then. And then obviously just threw Sam Darnold to the wolves and stunted his growth. I think there's a chance that Zach Wilson is actually that guy this year. Maybe he has a little bit of that dog in him, but that's probably a little bit of bias. I won't go too much into that, but Sam, thank you so much for giving us number 2. And CJ, I'm just grateful to get a not last in the division, but Connor, it's okay, man. It's okay. But we'll move to.
I love you, man, but
hey,
gotta follow the heart on this one, man.
no,
It's
but
way more likely they finish second than they finish fourth. I'll say that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, we'll move to the AFC North.
I hate that take.
I'm so sorry, because that's the official take that this podcast, and that's the stance of the podcast. That is the take. That's the take. All right. So AFC North, maybe it's just to me, but it kind of feels to me like we got 2 teams that are going to be fighting for first in the division, 2 teams that are going to be fighting for last. This is probably pretty reliant on Deshaun Watson not seeing the field. I really don't know what that's going to look like this season. But we'll start with the good teams. And Sam, I would love to hear your take. Who is winning this division? Is it the Ravens or is it the Bengals, or am I just totally wrong?
No, I mean, so this is all, to preface, this is all Deshaun Watson not playing.
This
right?
is,
so
yes.
Deshaun Watson not playing. I think the Bengals take it again. But I do think it could be a close division, maybe within 1 or 2 games. I wouldn't be surprised if both teams made the playoffs. But the AFC is pretty loaded, so we'll see how many teams make the playoffs from this division. But I would still lean the Bengals. I mean, we saw from Joe Burrow last year with arguably the worst offensive line in NFL history, right? They still made the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it was close up until the 4th quarter, but it was close. I really think if he has another good year and they take this division pretty handily, I think he starts to get put in that conversation of Rodgers, Brady, Mahomes, Josh Allen, like that tier of quarterbacks. If they win, maybe if they go double-digit wins and they take this division pretty easily, I don't think that would be crazy to put him in that conversation.
Yeah. And Connor, on the flip side, last place in the division, again, assuming Deshaun Watson doesn't play this football this season, we got the Steelers and the Browns. We got Kenny Smallhands Pickett or Mitch Trubisky and Jacoby Brissett. Connor, who's finishing last in this division?
Given that Deshaun may not play, if he does not play, I think the Browns easily. If he does play, I think the Ravens finish last. I think with the players that Pittsburgh has brought in and with a actually decent quarterback on the field, I think Pittsburgh is going to be a pretty good football team, as well as bringing in Georgia Dog at wide receiver. I really think Pittsburgh is going to be a pretty significantly good team. I don't see the Ravens beating them, and unless Deshaun Watson plays, I think the Ravens finish last again. And if he does not play, I think the Browns will, because they just sold out for him.
Connor, I would love to put some money on our rankings.
Yeah, I would love to do the same. Connor, who is this
CJ,
solid quarterback that you speak of?
I don't know how much money I could put on. Can you pick it? Can you pick it, brother? I think he's going to do just fine. Again, like we talk about already, how much a quarterback makes a difference on an NFL roster. Big Ben was not that guy. Big Ben knew it was time to retire, and he played even beyond the time that he should have. I think with the surrounding cast that Pittsburgh has, Najee Harris, they're looking at, again, they brought in my Georgia dog, George Pickens. They've still got Deontay Johnson. They've got Chase Claypool. I think with that surrounding cast, I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to be a great quarterback, but I think he's going to be good. And I think with his level of skill coming in that rookie year, given the surrounding cast he has, I think they will be a good team. I think the Ravens are just the same old team, and it just rides on how good is Lamar Jackson. Sometimes he's really good, and they're hard to beat. And sometimes he's really bad. And so this is a division that's loaded, but I think of all the good teams in that division, the Ravens are the worst. I don't think they're a bad team at all. I think they're the worst of all 4 of those good teams.
I had Baltimore having one of the best off seasons in the league this year, especially with the way they drafted.
Yeah, so I guess CJ, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I just kind of, I guess I always make the Steelers seem worse than they are. I mean, they were still in the playoffs last season, like barely, with Big Ben at quarterback. Like Conner said, he was not that guy at that point of his career. Arguably Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett would, I guess, technically be an upgrade over the Big Ben that we saw last season. Am I just entirely underrating the Steelers? And I'd also love to get your thoughts on the Ravens and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, no, I mean, Lamar is a dude. If he can stay healthy, he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. With what he can do with his legs, I mean, he's ridiculous, and he throws a great football. I do think the Bengals win the division. Sam kind of addressed it. The improvements they made to their O-line are just going to make them a better team if they can get over the Super Bowl hangover. But to address the Steelers question, it's definitely Steelers over Browns. If you think about the roster constructions, they are kind of similar. They have great running backs. They both have great defenses. I'd probably give wide receivers to the Steelers. They have a pretty good room, especially adding George Pickens now they lost Juju. But the difference maker is the coach. Mike Tomlin has a long history of winning games, no matter who he puts out on the field. The Browns don't. The Browns needed Baker Mayfield to pull them out of obscurity and just the absolute dumpster of the NFL. Baker Mayfield's gone. Deshaun Watson probably won't see the field this year. The Browns definitely come last in that division.
Cool. I'm also in agreement that the Browns are going to be pretty bad, especially with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. CJ, I'm going to ask you as we move over to the AFC South, because I know you are primed and ready for this conversation that we're about to have. You know, it's kind of been the Titans and Colts are good. The Jags and Texans are bad the past 2 seasons. The Colts added Matt Ryan this offseason. CJ, I know we have some Atlanta fans in this call. How good is Matt Ryan? How good are the Colts with Matt Ryan? Are they a legit contender for the Super Bowl?
I will defend Matt Ryan until the day that I die. If you don't look at team metrics, because he dealt with some of the worst defenses ever in his career, Matt Ryan is an all-time quarterback. I mean, his stats are up there with the greatest of all time that we talk about. He's in the top 10 for most every important stat throughout his career. And even last year, behind a horrible offensive line that let him get sacked 40 times, he still was 9th in on-target percentage. He was 5th in bad throw percentage. Only 4 quarterbacks threw less bad throws than him. Mahomes, Stafford, Brady, all well below him on that list. He's about to be behind one of the best offensive lines he's ever been behind, the best he's had 4 or 5 years. He's going to have one of the best defenses he's had in a very long time. And he's going to have playmakers around him. Jonathan Taylor, are you kidding me? Matt Ryan is elated to be handing the ball off and throwing screens to Jonathan Taylor. That team is going to be a very real contender. And spoiler alert, my pick to make the Super Bowl this year.
Sam.
Wow.
Actually, okay, let's just go with Conner, since Conner says wow. Conner, I just want to hear your thoughts on what CJ just said. That's it.
And Conner, the Bills are losing in the AFC Championship again.
Yikes.
That wouldn't surprise me. That's probably going to happen. CJ, I am in agreement with you halfway. I will defend Matt Ryan till I die. He is an absolute stud, and the Falcons treated him extremely poorly. He gets hate from the fan base for no reason. He was a diamond on a team that was absolutely abysmal. I think the Colts are almost a legit contender with him. Jonathan Taylor is unbelievable. I've got him, again, spoiler alert, for my offensive player of the year. I think he's going to be unstoppable. I don't think you can make a Super Bowl or be a legit contender when your best wide receiver is Michael Pittman and your next 2 up are Alec Pierce and Paris Campbell. Again, don't hear me saying any of those guys aren't good. I think Pittman's a stud, but I don't think he's one of a lot of other teams, and I don't think Alec Pierce and Paris Campbell being wide receiver 2, kind of, I'm not sure which one will be which. I don't think their receiver core is good enough to make them a legitimate contender, but I do think they'll be a very good football team.
I hear that. That is definitely their weakness. I agree. I love Michael Pittman, huge believer. I think he's going to be fantastic for fantasy this year, but the depth is an issue.
Yeah.
So Sam,
and I will say,
oh,
when I was I'm
brother, just
sorry.
go.
I was just
Just
gonna
go
give-
off. Please just go off.
I was just going to give CJ props because CJ put me on Pittman early on, and he's been a stud. So shout out CJ for improving my fantasy team.
CJ has definitely been on Michael Pittman. I believe Sam has as well. Sam, we might have some depth issues here in Indianapolis. Are they still good enough to win the division? Do you see them as a contender in the AFC and even into the Super Bowl? Or is it just not going to be enough?
No, I definitely believe they are. I think they're a virtual lock to win the division at this point, especially with how the Titans have handled their offseason and losing talent. They definitely didn't. They didn't get any better. So I would not be surprised if they barely make it to 500. The Titans. So yeah, I mean the Colts. If they win the division, I think heading into the playoffs, that's where they're going to see the tougher teams that have the better quarterbacks right outside of their division, which could cause some problems. I know their defense is great, but the other teams are in the playoffs for a reason, and typically it's because they have a top 5 quarterback. So it's going to be tough to match up against those teams.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah. Also, I'm pretty down on the Titans. I don't think Derrick Henry can just do it all by himself. I think Ryan Tannehill was pretty bad without AJ Brown and Julio in the lineup last season. I mean, the first time I think they didn't have either of them, they lost to the Jets. That's saying a lot considering how we've been.
Second place
this year. Yeah, we don't got to worry about the past, but this year, second place. Adding in Robert Woods coming off an injury and Traylon Burks just probably isn't enough to keep them where they have been. But we're going to move over to the final division, the AFC West, where we're going to talk about Broncos Nation. Oh my gosh, I totally just butchered it. Broncos Country.
No,
Let's
that's
ride.
right.
That's right.
Broncos Country. Let's ride. I
right.
can't believe I said
That's right.
Broncos Nation. Oh my gosh, I'm disappointed.
Go
Connor,
ahead and
we'll start
rewind
with
it.
you. Yeah. How's Russ going to be as a part of Broncos Country?
That's right. Listen, I don't know if I'm going to be in the majority or the minority with this one. The way I feel about it is that the Broncos are going to be good, but not good enough. So, right, you've got a 33-year-old Russ with an underperforming wide receiver core. For me, that's not good enough to compete with the Chiefs, the Chargers, or the Raiders now with Devontae Adams, right? I think the Broncos will be good, but this is another loaded division, and I just don't know if they'll be good enough. I think Russ is unbelievable, but I'm just not sure him alone is going to be able to take them to the level where they can compete for the division realistically. In fact, I would say I am sure that he alone is not good enough to.
Yeah, I just wanted to be known when I first wrote like, hey, like let's talk about the Broncos and Russell Wilson. I immediately thought I'm going to say Broncos Country, let's ride. And I literally just butchered it. I've been waiting days to say that and I ruined it. So Sam, like Connor said, this is a very, very, very loaded division. It seems like they could, even adding Russell Wilson, still be battling for last place. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing when your competition is the Chiefs, Chargers, and Raiders with some of the quarterbacks that are in that division. Where do you see the Broncos falling in the standings? And do you see Russ playing better than he did at times last season?
So I will kind of side with what Connor was saying. I think they will be lucky to finish in second place in this division for a multitude of reasons. So, like I talked about earlier, when I look at teams, I go from the inside out, right? So their offensive line is pretty good, but their front seven on the other side of the ball, it lacks some depth, right? So they've had Bradley Chubb for a while. He's been up and down. He's been hurt a little bit, so we don't really know how good he can be if he's reached his full potential. They signed Randy Gregory. He's 30 years old, coming off a lot of injuries. So that's your edge group right there. And then you look at the you look at the other teams in this division, right? So the Chiefs have Frank Clark. They drafted George Karlaftis, and then the Chargers obviously traded for Khalil Mack. They have Joey Bosa. So, and then not to mention, I mean, the Raiders, I think, still will finish last in this division, just because they have a awful offensive line. The franchise in general has been historically bad. But they did sign Chandler Jones to pair with Max Crosby. So you're looking at all three of the other teams in that division have a better pass rush than you do. And that's a problem when you're playing against Mahomes and Justin Herbert 4 times a year, right? So you could possibly chalk that up to 4 losses that you're giving away to your division rivals. So it's going to be tough. Do I think there's a world that they can finish second place? Sure. Do I think it's likely? Not really. I wouldn't bet money on it.
CJ, the Chiefs have kind of ran this division since Mahomes and Andy Reid were kind of taking over the league at the same time. Have the Broncos done enough to have a chance to overtake the division? And I guess also with that, have the Chargers done enough, or is this still just the Chiefs division?
The Chargers are the team to talk about over the Broncos. Now, I think the Broncos take a step up because Russ last year was having a great year until he hurt his finger, completed 72 of his passes, 240 yards per game, 10 touchdowns, one interception. I think he'll step in and Cortland Sutton will take a leap in this offense because he has the potential to be a top 15, borderline top 10 wide receiver with a great quarterback. He's been dealing with Drew Lock and what other no names have been throwing him the football. But the Chargers adding Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson to their defense that was already pretty good last year, at least against the run, I think they're the ones that are going to challenge the Chiefs for this division, and the Broncos are probably going to come in third.
Cool. I remember Jake and I made our picks a month or two ago. We went game by game, and I think I had the Broncos finishing third in the division, but I had every team having at least 10 wins. Maybe I was overhyping the Raiders and Broncos a little bit. Jake didn't seem to be as high on the Broncos, but this is going to be one of the most competitive divisions in football. I think both the AFC and NFC West are just legit, just way too stacked. It's almost unfair, especially when you have other divisions that are significantly less stacked, like the NFC North or the NFC East or the AFC South. Basically every other division, I guess, has a few bottom feeders. But we're going to skip these next few topics and we're just going to go make our awards picks. We're going to make our far too early, maybe not far too early, but definitely early awards picks. CJ said that his MVP pick was going to be entirely controversial. Nobody was going to agree with him. So I'm going to let him start. CJ, who is winning NFL MVP this season?
I think the words I used were a little spicy because I think there are some truthers out there that agree with me.
But I had to overhype it. This is the Hypothetically Speaking podcast.
I put to prove that I stay true to my beliefs. I put money on this back in March, and if this ticket hits, I'm gonna be happy. Jalen Hurts, MVP of the 2022 season, and adding AJ Brown to that roster with his ability to run the football, how accurate he is with the football, and he is accurate. 8th in on target percentage last year, 3rd in bad throw percentage according to Pro Football Focus. First quarterback in history to run for 1,000 yards, pass for 4,000 yards in their first 20 starts. Like he's got the stuff. He can run a football team. He can win games. He can be the guy. With AJ Brown helping him out, absolutely he could win MVP.
Sam,
Wow.
I'm gonna ask you next. Sorry, Connor. Sam, who's your MVP this season?
I kept it pretty not controversial. I went with Josh Allen because they, I think the Bills are the best roster in the NFL. Their offensive line is average, but average with Josh Allen can still get you to a Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, you saw they were so close last year. If it weren't for overtime rules, they could have taken the Bengals spot. So who knows? But I think they win the division. I think they make it to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they win because right now I'm still struggling to pick the NFC team to make it to the playoffs or to make it to the Super Bowl. But I think they get there, and I think Josh Allen, because of it, wins the MVP.
Connor, do I even need to ask?
No, you don't need to ask. I agree with Sam actually entirely. I think it's going to be Josh Allen for all the reasons he listed and more.
I'm glad I went with Jalen Hurts because I was also thinking Josh Allen for a minute.
I cannot believe how much money did you put on the Jalen Hurts?
$15. It wasn't a lot, but the odds are crazy.
Wow. I'm not gonna lie. Me and Noah both thought that it was gonna be that your pick would be Matt Ryan for sure.
I was flip flopping between the two because I also have a couple bucks on Matt Ryan.
I love it.
I mean, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Well, cool. I'm glad we're all in agreement because I also think Josh Allen wins MVP just because I think he had an argument for it last season. Or at least he's just phenomenal as a quarterback. And I think that the Bills are finally going to get it done and just dominate the AFC the way that Josh Allen's been playing. So I think he finally gets an MVP. But we will move down the list quickly to the Offensive Player of the Year. Sam, we'll start with you this time. Who is winning that award?
So I went with Josh Allen again because as I look back on it, the history of the Offensive Player of the Year, typically it's the quarterback that if the quarterback wins the MVP, they typically win the Offensive Player of the Year. It's not, at least in recent years. So I just kept it simple.
Cool. Connor, we'll just keep it rolling with you then.
Yeah. For Offensive Player of the Year, I think I said earlier, I went with Jonathan Taylor on that one. I think he has all the stuff. I think he is an unbelievable player, and I think he's going to put up ridiculous numbers next season, as if he didn't last season. But yeah, he is my Offensive Player of the Year for sure.
CJ, do you have another spicy take for us?
A little bit, and it's all about health.
Let's go.
Christian McCaffrey is going to come back. He's going to stay healthy. He's going to take on that load, and he's going to put up another crazy season.
Oh boy.
There was
yeah.
no pause. There was no pause
whatsoever. I definitely think that if CJ McCaffrey, I said CJ McCaffrey. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. If Christian McCaffrey plays 17 games, that the dude's going to win some sort of award. But that is obviously the biggest question mark. I'm just going to throw out a guy just because I just want to be a little different. I think Justin Jefferson can win this award just because he's been one of the premier receivers since he entered into the league. And I think that he can do it. Oh my gosh, we're finally getting to see Connor's face. That makes me so happy. But I think Justin Jefferson, can win this award. It was a wide receiver last year. I think Kirk Cousins force feeds him the ball, and there's a chance that it's a wide receiver again this season. Maybe it's just
wide receivers win that.
Yeah, it makes it fun.
I don't necessarily disagree with that take, but
I mean, there's enough just incredibly talented skill position players in the NFL that I could say this guy's going to win Offensive Player of the Year, and everybody's, yeah, I guess he could because there's just so many guys. But
what about these other 7 or 8 guys?
Exactly.
Well, sorry, only one can win.
Yeah, exactly.
What about Corey Davis?
He's not even the best. He might not even be the best receiver on his team. So we'll see. Man.
He's making the most money on his team.
Yeah, but you see this guy right up here. That man. That man, Elijah Moore.
I think there's a league out there that Noah doesn't have him in, and I
Yeah,
think I know
just the
why.
one, because one man won't trade him to me. It's actually probably more Logan's fault. I would overpay for him right now, but I'll blame Logan, my co-manager. Connor, we're going to start with you on this award. Defensive Player of the Year. I know you don't care about defense, but who's winning the Defensive Player of the Year award?
You're absolutely right. I don't care about defense. But I do think it's going to be Aaron Donald. And the reason I say that is solely based off the fact that he's really good at football and he hasn't won the award since 2014. And I just think
I think he won it in 2020.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Aaron
Is that
Donald.
99?
What?
Yeah, man.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm looking up right now.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah.
I looked
Guys, it's an Urban Meyer joke.
Oh, I missed that, CJ. I'm sorry.
Dang, no one picked up on it.
What did you say?
Urban Meyer didn't know who Aaron Donald was on tape. He said 99. Who's that?
I forgot about that one. Gosh.
I literally went down a list of wow. I don't feel like I'm qualified to be on this pod right now.
What year did you say he won it?
2014.
Yeah, so he actually won it in so he did win it in 2014. He also won it in 2017 and 2018 and 2020.
I will literally pull up the thing that I looked at, dude. This is nuts. I promise you a website exists that it says that.
Look, man, I need you to bring better sources next time you get on this.
I promise you a website.
I need you to bring better sources.
Do you want to change your answer now, or?
No, I still think I'm gonna
still a good pick.
Fair enough. That's fair enough.
Man, if any of my students are watching this is why you have to use credible sources. Right.
I love it. CJ, I'm just going to swing it over to you. Hopefully we can get some better sourcing on this one. Who's winning your Defensive Player of the Year?
Second year, Micah Parsons. Man can play almost any position on the defensive side of the ball. You could throw him at a corner and he might do a good job. Super versatile, had a great rookie season. I think he makes the jump. And I mean, he's already an elite defender, and I think he could be one of the best.
And Sam, I'll get your pick. Defensive Player of the Year in the NFL. Who you got?
So I went with an edge defender, one who hasn't won the award yet, surprisingly. Reason why I went with edge is because typically all they really look at is sacks. If you have a lot of sacks, you're going to win the award. But I went with Myles Garrett. He hasn't won the award yet, surprisingly, even though he puts up all pro numbers every year. Hasn't won the award yet. But maybe it's his year. I mean, he's a top 5 edge rusher in the game, so why not?
Yeah,
and franchise, he breaks the sack record every year.
I would like to throw in just real quick, and I'm sorry about this. I went back and I looked at my search history. I had searched up Defensive Rookie of the Year for Defensive Player of the Year, and those are the results that it yielded. So
the good thing is God gives grace, right? So
absolutely,
you don't really need
that brings us to the gospel portion of the podcast. Well, that fits my mold perfectly because I see myself as an average NFL fan, and I see Sam and CJ as very committed NFL fans. So for anybody that's listening, that's like, I care and I have opinions, but I don't they're not that well researched. I'm your guy.
I love it.
The relatable one.
We call it the casual.
The casual, yeah.
The casual.
Sam, I also looked that up while on the way home while my wife was driving back from dinner with Noah. So I will throw that out there too.
You were put under pressure. Sam, I love your pick because the Browns are probably going to be on defense a good bit this season as well. Myles Garrett will have plenty of opportunities to rack up the sacks. I'm just going to throw out another name, Chase Young. I think the dude's good. And he could win, I believe, comeback player of the year because I think he missed a good portion of last season, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not coming off an injury, but the dude's an incredible talent. I love his chances. But we'll move over to some young guys with some rookie picks. CJ, who's winning your offensive rookie of the year?
It's your boy. I think it's going to be Breece Hall. Just because, good running backs win those awards. I mean, running backs that get featured, they have the opportunity to put good tape out there. And as much as I love Michael Carter, I had him on a lot of fantasy teams last year also. Love him. But I mean, I think Breece Hall steps in, takes over the number 1 role, not the 1A, the number 1 role, and he's gonna be solid.
Sam, I dare you to disagree.
I am going to disagree, but it's actually going to be interesting. I'm going with another Jet. I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson.
That's
Noah is on
acceptable.
cloud
That's
9.
acceptable.
So like I said, I think if I had to pick right now, I'd pick the Jets to finish second place. And so with that, I think Garrett Wilson is going to have a pretty good rookie year. Looking at so I'll agree with CJ with the top tier running backs typically get that award if they get drafted into a good situation, right? But while I do think Breece Hall is good, I don't know how much he's going to get featured because it is coming from the San Francisco coaching tree. So I think he's good, but we have to see how much he's going to be used. With that being said, Garrett Wilson is probably in the best situation of all the other rookie quarterbacks or rookie wide receivers. Drake London, obviously he's not going to win it, right? Because Atlanta. Traylon Burks isn't going to win it, in my opinion, at least. That arguably the closest person he's got is Chris Olave, but that really goes with Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill. How much is Michael Thomas going to play? If I had to pick right now, I'd pick Garrett Wilson.
Sam, all my Michael Carter shares hope that you're right about Breece Hall and that Michael Carter does have a role, but I just think Breece Hall steps into that position.
It should be relatively split, but it's probably definitely going to favor Breece Hall, maybe a little bit more Michael Carter in like a passing game. But Connor, with the rate this is going, it looks like you kind of have to pick Jeremy Ruckert as your offensive rookie of the year, just choosing another Jet.
Wild. Exactly where I was going to go with it.
Dude, I love it. Give me your pick, man.
I like either Treylon Burks or Kenny Pickett, and the reason being, I think Treylon Burks steps into a good Titans team and can fill kind of an AJ Brown role, whereas a lot of the opposing defenses are going to be more focused on Robert Woods. I think that's going to give Treylon Burks a lot of freedom to be a playmaker. However, if I had to pick anybody, I would say Kenny Pickett, because I think when it comes to awards like these, quarterbacks just generally are the favorites, and quarterbacks are generally, their performances are, I think, given a leg up on everybody else. So I think if he comes in and if he has a decent season with Pittsburgh, I think they will default to him being the offensive rookie of the year, given that one of the other guys doesn't just explode and have a year like, Jamar Chase had this past year. But I would say Kenny Pickett, based off mainly how I think quarterbacks are kind of overhyped in these awards.
Now, you remember that Kenny Pickett has small hands, correct?
You know what? That's all right, man. That is all right. I speak for all men with small to average. All right.
Okay, because he made it his, like he kind of said after, nobody's going to say that I have small hands when I'm throwing touchdowns or whatever. And so I made it my part of my agenda to make sure that anytime I reference Kenny Pickett, that everybody around me knows that he has small hands. But I do love the Burks pick. I think that
shoulder, baby.
What was that?
It's small hands and a chip on his shoulder from you. You just placed another chip on his shoulder.
Just added me to the list. Sam,
I want to revert for a moment. Connor, you're like 6'9". Did you just say you have small or average size hands?
I am not 6'9".
I know, but
I would say I have averagely sized hands. I don't think they're small, but I don't know. I mean, hold on. I'll compare.
Oh, here we go.
I didn't mean for it to be this long.
My hands are an inch bigger than my wife's.
Well, I'm glad we have that debate settled. Back to football. Sam, defensive rookie of the year. Who's it going to be?
So again, doing some research on this award, typically it's going to be pass rushers or the rare occasion of a cornerback who gets a lot of picks. So with that being said, I'm going with a linebacker. Don't know how much he's going to rush the passer, but I think he is arguably in the best spot as a linebacker, as a rookie linebacker outside of. So I'm going to go with Devin Lloyd as my defensive rookie of the year. I was debating between him and Quay Walker because the position that Quay Walker is in, I think he's going to rack up a lot of tackles, but I don't know how much he's going to rush the passer. So Devin Lloyd, I think he can rush the passer. I think Jacksonville could use a pass rusher opposite of Josh Allen. So yeah, I think Devin Lloyd could take that.
Sam and I are in a 32-team dynasty league, and I believe that Devin Lloyd was the 6th pick in our rookie draft, or was it 5th?
It was too high, is what it was.
That's a great way to put it, Sam. But as far as winning defensive rookie of the year, very, very solid pick. But as far as drafting him over receivers and running backs in fantasy, maybe that's questionable. But we'll swing it over to Connor for your defensive rookie of the year pick.
After my whole collapse with defensive player of the year, I don't feel like I'm in a position to make a bold pick here. But I, again, just to spice things up, I'm going to say Nakobe Dean, because I think as a George fan who's watched him play for years, he is the absolute truth. And I think he slid under the radar in the draft due to kind of that lingering injury that he had. I think he could come out and legitimately dominate. Obviously, that's a dark horse. I don't think it's probable, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because I think it would be unbelievable. And I think it's possible. While I don't think it will likely happen, I think it's very possible.
He has to play for that to happen.
Yeah, you know he's probably not likely to play.
I told you,
guys, he has that dog in him.
So you were right with the fact that he was a little bit injured, but after he was picked, it started coming out that he actually refused several surgeries.
I heard all about it, man.
So he refused several surgeries, and he was already injured at the time. I know he's a great player, and I think year 2 will be great for him, but I think he'll have to play year 1.
Sam, I'm gonna have to agree with you on the take that in order to win, he will have to play.
Well, Connor loves picking rookies that are already being written off between picking Kenny Pickett and now Nakobe Dean. CJ, can you give me a sane pick, please? Because I don't think Connor helped me out there.
Well, I mean, Aaron Donald has never won a defensive rookie of the year, so
he
why don't we pick him? No, my pick, I don't understand how we're saying anyone not named Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, the man has the dog in him. Like, he fits Dan Campbell's system and his culture better than probably anyone else in this draft. Dan Campbell is incredibly passionate, maybe the most passionate coach currently in the NFL. And Aiden Hutchinson bleeds for Detroit now. He bleeds football and he bleeds for Detroit. He is going to give every single play his absolute all. He's going to give everything to that city and that football team. And I don't think anyone else takes that award from him.
So I will, let me just jump in here real quick. The reason why I was going to lean Aiden Hutchinson, either him or KT, the reason why I didn't go with them was because looking at the history of the award, right? Because I'm doing some research. The players that are strictly edge positions, like Aiden Hutchinson is, I mean, you're looking at Chase Young, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, Von Miller. Like, you're looking at some Hall of Fame. Granted, Chase Young is still young, but on the course to be Hall of Fame players. So I didn't view Aiden Hutchinson in that same tier. So that's why I went with somebody else.
I respect it. I just disagree.
But we love it. I think Aiden Hutchinson's definitely a kneecap biter, which makes him fit with Dan Campbell excellently. I think we could definitely see, with the Jets having 2 first-round picks, Jermaine Johnson and Sauce Gardner. I really don't think either of them probably end up winning it, but it would be really hype. But I really like Kayvon Thibodeau as a guy that could win it. I think he was widely regarded as the guy like the number 1 pick, like pretty much hands down. And then obviously didn't happen, slipped to 5. I think he's going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Sorry to kind of steal your idea, Connor, but I'm just taking the guy that got written off a little bit. And I think Kayvon Thibodeau has a very, very, very good chance to win this defensive rookie of the year. Another team that's going to be on defense a lot. And I think he's going to have a chance to get some numbers. And then we will go with our final topic. We're going to make our Super Bowl picks. Connor, who are the Bills going to beat in the Super Bowl? Please tell me.
The Bills are going to beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. I think the Rams are going to be just as good. I think they're going to be I think they're going to find their way back to the Super Bowl. And just because it's so hard to win back to back, I think that as the Bills well know, could not win at all. However, I think, and this is a lot of bias in me, but also they're a good team. I think the Bills beat the Rams in the Super Bowl.
Beautiful. I can see it. CJ, we'll slide to you. Is it going to be Colts Eagles? Is that what we're getting?
I'm also going to incredibly lean into my bias and go Colts Eagles.
Let's go. Let's go.
And is it the matchup that I would necessarily put my money on? Maybe not, but I really believe in both those teams. I really believe in both those quarterbacks, and I would love to see them in the Super Bowl this year. And I love that I am so predictable.
Sam, you got me something fun?
Yeah, well, no. So like I said, I'm pretty high on Josh Allen this year. So I do think the Bills make the Super Bowl. And right now it's kind of tough to pick the NFC team that's going to go against them. I didn't want to, so I'm going to go with the Bucks. So Bills versus Bucks. If I had to put money on it, I'd bet on the Bills. Reason why I went with the Bucks for the NFC, it's pretty hard to repeat success in the NFL. So I think the Bucks come back from losing to the Rams, and I think they take their spot in the Super Bowl. But this could be Tom Brady's last year. Who knows if he?
Hopefully.
Who knows if he? Who knows if he wins it on his way out?
Yeah, it would be quite a storybook finish for Brady to win it. Hopefully we don't see that. I would love to see him lose or not even make the Super Bowl. That'd be a great way for me to watch him finish his career. I actually love the Eagles pick, CJ. I go Bills over Eagles. I love what the Eagles did this offseason. I love how Connor, Sam, and I are just huge Bills supporters, evidently. But I think that the Bills finally get it done. I think that they're going to be a phenomenal football team. And I think the Eagles made some great moves. I think AJ Brown is the king. I'm very excited to watch them play football.
Bills are an absolutely great team, and they're probably going to be the best team that the Colts beat this year.
I love it.
Yeah. It's very weird in the NFL because of how stacked the AFC is, while how unstacked the NFC is. I feel like there's only a couple of real contenders in the NFC, whereas you could probably name 8 contenders in the AFC and then other teams that are probably good enough to make the playoffs. But it's going to be a wild ride. We will definitely be back with more NFL episodes, some more fantasy specific episodes, and then we're going to be back with episodes about other sports. But that is it for our NFL episode 5 of the HYPEothetically Speaking podcast. Fellas, thank you guys for joining me.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.